Today's guest conversation is with the head baseball coach of the Augustana University Vikings in majestic Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Mr. Tim Huber. Here's episode 79 of the Baseball Forward podcast. Coach Huber, good morning.
How we doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great. Doing great. How's it going? How's life in Sioux Falls? I'm picturing it. Just a beautiful fall, crisp morning. The leaves are probably starting to fall. What do you got going on in Sioux Falls today?
I wish. It's been it's been unseasonably warm. So probably like everywhere, I think right now. But yeah, we've been really warm. It's raining today, so we needed it. We needed some rain. I've been running sprinklers on the outfield.
Nice.
We threw some overseed down, but it's a little bit cooler because of the rain, but we've been warm. I think this week looks really nice still. We're still in 60s. Up to 70 a couple times, but it looks like it's going to change. We're getting getting fall weather.
What are you guys doing right now? Like, because I know like so many rules have changed and what you can't do in fall and everything. But obviously, being at the Division II level, slightly different than Division I level. Is there like what are you guys doing in the fall? Are there individual workouts? Are there team workouts? What do you guys have going on this fall?
Yeah, so our fall is. I always tell people it's different than other places, and just kind of how we've done it the last several years now, but we've even shortened it up more. It's only about 3 weeks of what I would call fall practice time. It's mostly scrimmages, some defensive work, obviously some situational baseball and base running. And we stay away from the hitting mechanic and pitching mechanic piece and just watch guys compete. And then we just try to get into our off season sooner. So we've been in our quote unquote off season for 3 weeks already. Right now our guys are on fall break, so there's a lot of nothing going on. But
nice.
But yeah, we've been 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3:30 in the afternoon. We go up to Sanford Power off campus, and just a pretty cool dynamic working with those guys. So our fall's a little bit different, just what it looks like. And I think we saw some good stuff this fall, and then now it's, again, what do we need to work on? What do we need to get better at? Let's change the bodies a little bit. And we're full speed into that at this point.
Do you guys play any outside competition, like a game or anything like that?
We don't. We haven't done that in several years. Most years we used to play USF, right up the road, University of Sioux Falls. Made a lot of sense. They just come over here. Our field is just as close to them as anything. So, but then we just kind of stopped doing that. I've always said it's good to play somebody with a different jersey on, but at the same time, I as a coach get a lot more out of seeing 18 guys on the field instead of 9. And so on any given day, if we scrimmage somebody, we're just not getting a look at as many people and not as many innings at bats, et cetera. So, and since we've gotten, pretty good as a program, I think our inter squad stuff is probably more valuable than playing anybody else.
Good point.
Not trying to knock anybody else's program, but we've got some talent right now. So our guys seeing our guys and getting to compete against each other that way has been good for us.
That's good perspective. Seriously. I mean, you think about that, you get to that stage. It's like, that's who you want to play. Like you want the guys, maybe the pitchers at the back end of a rotation or the back end of a roster. Why would you not want them seeing a top 25 hitting team? I mean, that's great perspective. Is when you're watching, I want to pinpoint something here. You said you like watching the guys compete. Mm-hmm. So when you're at this stage and you're evaluating guys, maybe new guys that are coming back in, or new guys into the program, and then guys that are maybe coming back for summers, like what are you specifically looking for? And does it have an effect on how you make your roster decisions in the spring?
Well, a lot of layers to that. First of all, to answer the last question, not really, but I think it gets guys, on the radar for sure that maybe we didn't think were going to be on the radar in the fall. You can do that, I think, in a 3-week span. But there's so much stuff in our program, at least, that happens between when we finish fall scrimmages and then game 1 of the spring. I mean, it's amazing. I'll circle back to finish your answer, but just to give some perspective, I just talked to a couple people about this week when we had some recruits on campus. It sounds really bad, but I really don't see our pitchers much from about right now until January. I'll see them, don't get me wrong, but I'm not working with them on anything baseball related. So
Wow.
I always tell my new pitching coach we hired this year, I'm like, man, you better be good at your job, or I'm gonna show up at January like, oh boy, we're in for a rough year. But it's kind of cool because I'll watch the first live outing for a pitcher, and same thing, the pitchers, pitching coaches just see our hitters for the first time, like, wow, that guy looks really good. He didn't look like that in the fall. So all those changes that happen in that time frame can sort themselves out. But for me, what does it look like? I mean, I talked to a couple parents about this when we had our parent and alumni weekend, and it was our World Series game or whatever. And I'm just walking around talking to people, and it's not a ton different when I'm just any given scrimmage day when there's no parents or anybody around. I sit in the stands, or I'll sit, in the opposite dugout where our guys are at, and just kind of observe and try to stay out of the way and see how they handle it. For me, partly it's how do the upperclassmen start to develop their roles of leadership that they haven't done that yet. The fall's a good time for that. And again, I just want to watch. We try to take some stuff from our scrimmages and put it into every play gets clipped up in huddle, and so we try to put it into a playlist of what they can learn from and just game situational stuff, and then our guys have access to that, obviously. So there's that going on, but yeah, it's funny because I'm not the type of personality to just watch and not say something, but largely that's kind of what the fall looks like. I'm just kind of out there hanging out, and every once in a while our guys will hear from me if I don't like what it's looking like, or they're not hustling on off the field, that kind of stuff. I'll bark at them, but yeah, it's just kind of leave them alone, let them go play.
Man, I love hearing that. Talking with Tim Huber of Augustana University, national champion Tim Huber. We got a trophy in the background if you watch this on YouTube. That'll never go away. Tim, that never goes away, man. You guys are national champions, and I'm so proud of you guys for that. I think that was pretty funny though. Like I'm imagining you and like your personality in going in early into the spring, seeing like a pitcher, like, whoa, who's this guy? like in spring training, like major league, who are these guys?
I mean, you laugh, but it's true. Every single winter it happens. I'm like, oh, geez, that guy looks a lot different. And it's body. It's typically a freshman, right? I mean, for the most part, that's who it is. But once in a while, there's an older guy, a sophomore, junior, that's like, oh man, you made some good changes to a certain pitch or whatever that might be. But it literally happens every year.
Do you okay? I'm curious to like the dynamic of it. Like I don't really remember what it was like to be 18 years old, if I'm being honest. But do you see nerves? Like, do you see guys that maybe that it's their first time on the field, it's their first time around like coaches? Because I mean, you can be a little bit intimidating at times, like you're a little rough and gruff, So do you see guys that come in and they're kind of like a little bit nervous? They have nervous actions, and if so, like you just got to give them time to get comfortable. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, always. I mean, I think for me, again, having done this over many years now, I'm most impressed by the freshmen that aren't nervous around me. It's pretty incredible. It's unusual, actually. They're just, maybe they had a bad play or they did something wrong, and you see the type that you're talking about, and they don't want to go anywhere near you, or you have some young guys, freshmen or sophomores, whatever. They're still young in the program and haven't established themselves, and they'll do something, and I'll bark at them, and then 10 minutes later, they're like standing next to me, hey coach, well, can you tell me more? I'm like, holy crap, good for you, buddy. Like you just know that's a special kind of person as far as the makeup goes and all those kind of things, because it's hard to do that when you, like you said, if you are intimidated in any fashion. So, but yes, it's definitely a thing. Think about it. I always compare. I'll say, hey, go back to your freshman year in high school. Now, granted, you were a really little dude back then, probably compared to the juniors and seniors, but in college, it's not a ton different for the most part. You're just figuring out life a little bit at this level, and these guys have been here for a while. Some of them are bigger, more physical than you, but a lot of it's just. I think that what most people don't realize at our level, or really any level of baseball, is how big of a difference the speed of the game is. The velocity, the foot speed, all those things. And freshmen that come in from big schools and good programs at their high school, Omaha, Minneapolis area, those are probably our two predominant bigger city areas. Their kids play good baseball, and not taking away anything from small town. I was a small town guy myself, but I think those kids think they're more prepared because, they saw a guy throwing 90. They saw a guy going to Nebraska or Wichita State or you name the school. And it's like, well, you saw one or two of those guys, and then you still saw a whole bunch of 78 to 82s. That's just the reality. And all of a sudden now you go out here and all our pitchers are, except for most of the freshmen and a couple sophomores, they're 88 to 92, like every guy. There's no break. And, if they're a good pitcher for us, they have good stuff to go with the velocity. So just hitters they struggle. Infielders, our field's fast. Guys can run on our program. So infielders, just everything gets sped up on them. So they make more mistakes. And, they just don't think about it sometimes. So those are big pieces that it's the reality of being a freshman and just learning.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to go into your mind right now of you said you hired a new pitching coach, and for those of you guys listening to this, Coach Huber's been around a long time. Man, you've been at Augustana forever now, it seems like. But so you've been there, kind of done that. You felt your way through a lot of different teams and a lot of different team dynamics. So when you hire a guy at this point, number one, I'd be curious to know who you hired, but talk me through the process of a coach in your position hiring guys and what goes into that, finding the right guy.
Yeah, and I'm different in that regard too. I've been here 18 years, and I've always, when we make our hire, we have one full-time assistant, a couple other part-time guys, and a graduate assistant. And when I hire somebody, I'm looking for something very specific, and that is someone that can teach. And it's 99% of the time on the pitching side of things, just because I think I've told you this story, but I was a pitching coach 1 year in my career here at Augustana. It was awful. I hated it. So I love the hitting and all the other stuff associated with it. I always say I know enough to be dangerous with the pitching piece of the puzzle from mechanics and all those kind of things. But I'm looking for somebody that can really teach it. And again, we've been successful in our program the last several years now, and largely because our pitchers have just been pretty dominant. We've been really good. And we find the right kind of guy, and then it's just but we don't get finished products very often. I talk about that a lot too. And so when I was talking to this guy, John Nolan is the guy that we hired, and John was at Briarcliff the last 5 years. He's younger in the profession still, but no, I'm looking for somebody that can teach it first and foremost. And other head coaches might be more of the in the office, run the program, do practices, whatever. They're not on the road as much with recruiting, and I am. I do a ton of work on the road with recruiting, and I feel like I have an eye for it, so I want to keep doing that. I enjoy it. But if someone else in my chair isn't that guy, they have to have a really, really good recruiter, and so that's maybe more of a priority for their full-time position. And that's never been a priority for me. That's just a bonus. If John ends up being good at recruiting, great. If not, I'll figure that out. I can help him. I can teach him some of those kind of things.
Sure.
Office stuff is always, you hope everybody's awesome at the organizational piece to that, especially camps and clinics and all that kind of thing that we do here at Augie. And it is what it is. He'll figure some of that out as we go, but you can't figure out the teaching and the training of pitchers as we go. You got to be good at it. And everybody that I've hired in that position has either gone on to be a head coach in college, has moved on to a pro level for jobs. So we've had a lot of success, and mainly because it's just they're good teachers. They can teach the game. There's always a place for that for sure on the pitching side, in my opinion. And so, that's the ins and outs of how I look for someone in that position. I talked to a ton of people. I really did.
Wow. So then I'm curious as to the conversations that you have. So when you're like, all right, I know what I'm looking for. When you start having the conversations, are you asking specific questions, breaking down like what's your philosophy? Do you ask them like staged questions where you're kind of like, I want to know what their input on this? Give me some examples of that.
Yeah, for sure. No, again, we didn't put the position out there. I didn't even, post it. So everybody I talked to was someone I knew, or somebody that I knew that knew somebody that said, yeah, they're good. And again, it starts with that conversation I just brought up. You got to be good at teaching. Who can teach pitching? Who's really good at that? Mm-hmm. Whether it's someone in a facility somewhere, we talked to a number of people that are facility type guys. And part of that is because what we're looking at doing, and maybe we can dive into that, maybe we won't today, we're building a pitching lab and getting some technology that goes with a pitching lab. And I think at our level, we're going to separate ourselves with some of that kind of stuff. So I thought in my own mind, some facility people that have been down that path from a training and know what maybe it looks like to monetize a building, because that's what we're going to try to do to fund all this stuff that we're adding. Yeah. But anyways, we talk to a lot of different areas, and it starts with the discussion about teaching and how do you do it, and what does that look like? What do you feel you're good at? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Those are some of just the canned questions, I guess. And then for me, I think having done this long enough and knowing what I'm looking for, I'm looking to try to get some philosophy things out of that person. How do they go about their business? Especially, I think in this day and age, I'm all about compete and have success. And when you get into this particular discussion, when it comes to training, okay, and we are in a training era where everybody wants to train and throw harder and do all these, all that piece of the puzzle. I'm like, okay, at the end of the day, you're standing on the mound with a baseball in your hand. There's a guy standing in the batter's box. You got to get him out. It isn't about the spin metrics or the velocity or the stuff that you have or what kind of tilt you want to try to put on a certain pitch or all these dynamics that are out there nowadays. You still got to try to get the guy out. And so when I'm asking these questions, I'm trying to figure out along the way, is this guy just really like to train pitchers and really good at helping them get better, throwing harder and have better stuff? Because that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be any good on the field.
That's right. Good point.
And I think using John as an example, he made a comment to me that sold me. I knew he was going to be pretty good from the teaching side of things. He had spent a year at Driveline, and so he was some of the nuances that are out there in training. He was going to be pretty good at, and he was interested in all this new technology we're going to be adding. He was really excited. So I'm like, you're the right guy. But the comment that kind of sold me for him is he said something to the extent of, well, coach, I just feel we got to keep the real thing, meaning we can train them to get to throw harder and to have better stuff and everything else. And I feel comfortable doing that. But I've realized as he's gotten older as a coach, he probably won his first couple of years as a pitching coach. That's all he was focused on.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden the guy gets on the mound and he's walking and hitting everybody. And it's like, we lost the baseball game because that guy can't pitch.
Good point.
And so he's like holding runners and, just how to pitch, how to execute pitches, where your misses are. Those kind of things are as important as it is to training the movement patterns and the stuff. And for me, that just, like I said, we had great conversations that kind of sold it a little bit. And I talked to another head coach that I actually tried to get to come over here as our pitching coach, who I have a ton of respect for on the pitching side. And I asked him about John because he knew him, was in his conference. And he's like, yeah, I think he's really good. The one thing I worry about is he just, because he knew my philosophy and how we do things. He's like, I wonder if he's a little bit too focused on just the training side of things. And, And it was crazy to hear this. He's like, yeah, I don't know if he can keep the real thing. And I started laughing on the phone talking to him like, dude, I love this right now because he said the exact same quote you just said. Yeah, just about what's important, So anyways, those are just a few things that go into the piece of the puzzle. I felt my way through a little bit, talked to a lot of people, and ultimately John ended up being the guy. I heard a lot of positive things about him. Down in the Sioux City area, anybody that did anything pitching training related, they were working with him. Some guys we tried to recruit out of there that ended up at Iowa and other places, they worked with him. And I talked to a couple of those kids. I'm like, tell me more. And they're like, yeah, he's really good.
Love hearing that. John Nolan, let's go, baby. Go do your thing for Augustana. Talking with Tim Huber, head baseball coach, Augustana University, on episode 79 of the Baseball Forward podcast today. I'm curious your take, man. Baseball playoffs going on right now. And I don't want to sit here and be an old fuddy-duddy, but I watched Tarek Skubal get removed from a game the other day at 99 pitch count and just shoving. I'm like, you'd have to pry the ball out of my dead, lifeless hand to get me off that mound if that's the way I was throwing. Then I watched Snell last night, and I'm sitting there watching it with my wife, and she's a huge Dodger fan, and I'm like, he was perfect. What more do you want from that guy? And not only was he perfect, but he was so sharp in that eighth inning. Yeah. And I think he threw one ball that I was like, yeah, he spiked it. But here's what I want to get into with you, and not like, oh, the game has changed, blah, blah, blah. But is it at your level and with what you see, like, is there still a mentality of that's the horse, let's ride the horse, or is that gone from baseball at this point?
I think it's still there. It's a lot of it's gone, but partly because there's so many really talented guys at the back end of the games now at every level. It's I think that's what's changed the most, even in Division II baseball or the lower level, the non-Division I Power 5 stuff that you see. Yeah, I was watching the game last night too. I didn't see Skubal's game, but I was on a group text message with a bunch of buddies, and I was doing something with a recruit, and we had this long. I pulled my phone up, like, okay, something must have happened here that they didn't like, right? So it's the old school. What the heck are we doing? Why'd you take that guy out?
Yeah.
But I did watch the game last night, and what my mind went to was like, I wonder if they're thinking, let's save him one inning, and that helps him come back for whenever his next game is in this series. I don't know if that's the case or not, but if not, I agree with you. Like, what's another 20 pitches? This dude's going to do it. He's dominating. He's controlling everything. Hadn't really lost the velocity. I thought there's a few pitches in the 8th inning where he wasn't quite as sharp or had the same command as he did early in the game, but he got through it really good. And so I do think that for me, there are examples, those guys you're mentioning, and I have the perfect example. This actually came up this weekend. A kid by the name of Seth Miller, who was a senior on our 2023 team when we went back to the World Series a couple years ago. And I've always said Seth is that guy that's kind of on the Mount Rushmore of guys I've coached, because he had an it factor. And that particular year, there is a 0% chance we go back to the World Series if that guy's not on our team. Wow. No stinking way. Dang. He was just that guy. And you could ask anybody in our dugout and they would admit to that. And it was just different. So we are in the game 1 of the World Series. This is your example. I mean, we lost the game ultimately. It was like, why'd you leave him out there to drive? Like,
shut up.
He was Seth Miller. But this is the old school thought process. Seth was, I think it was the 8th inning. And we had a 1-run lead. They had 2 guys on base. I'm forgetting the exact details, but very specifically, I remember the situation that who was hitting. It was one of the best Division II hitters in the history of college baseball. All-time home run guy in Division II. And North Greenville was the team we're playing, and they won the national championship the year before, and we've got them round 1. And Seth's on the mound. He's pitching really, really well. And like I said, we had a 1-run lead late in the game, and I went out and made a trip to the mound and had somebody warm in the pen, and I think everybody thought he's done. We're taking him out, which he probably was. Yeah. But I went out there and I'm like, hey man, what do you think? And he goes, Coach, I'm good. I got it. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go sit down, and just let you do your thing. And if he would have been, I think he's a competitive guy, and people always say, well, of course, every pitcher is going to tell you that. Like, they probably all might tell you that, but it's the way that they tell you it. I think it's really important. It's, Coach, I'm good. Like, no, you're not. Let's go sit down. You're done. We'll go get, Bobby in the bullpen. He'll get it done for you. And Seth was not that guy. I won't tell you the story because there's some expletives in there.
Sure.
Mankato in the Super Regional a week earlier, and we were in game 2 of the 3-game series. We lost the first one, and he's on the mound in game 2, and we're beating him by a good chunk. I don't remember, 6 or 7 at the time in game 1 of that day. We had to play 2 games that day to go to the World Series and beat him twice. And it was like it was the 8th inning, and his pitch count was over 100. And I walk out there, again, some words, Coach, I'm not coming out of this game. He literally said, go sit down. I'm like, see you later.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They got it. Save the bullpen for next game. I'm like, okay. I think he went like 140. You don't do that.
Hey, no, you don't. So, I want to have some fun with this. Coach Tim Huber of Augustana, like, what's the most you've left a guy out there for? And I'm going to call out Brett McCabe. When I played at Augustana, I pitched against Nova Southeastern in Homestead, Florida, my sophomore year, 157, I think it was. So I'm putting you on the record and say, who have you left out there on the clothesline and just said, hey, buddy?
I mean, that was it. That was the game. And again, it was a higher pitch count. He pitched really well. He struck some guys out that game, but he was pitching well, and we had a big lead. So I'm like, yeah, let's just get him out. And again, he's smart enough kid to know we needed every bullpen, because we weren't going to go to some crappy guy in the bullpen. It was going to be somebody good to make sure we won that game.
That's right.
And he's like, no, save him. I got it, Coach. I'm good. And I have to look back. It was somewhere between 130 and 140, I think. And that was probably the longest I've had somebody go.
Not too
malicious. It was the situation. It was the kid. We knew he had at least, so it was over a week off before he was going to pitch next in game 1, of course, of the World Series. But we had to win that one, and he was a senior. He wasn't coming out.
I'd love to talk to Seth Miller. Seth Miller, if you ever listen to this, DM me or text me. I bet you he couldn't wipe his butt for 3 or 4 days straight afterwards, man. Where you're just like, oh, I guess I'm left-handed for a week now. Talking with Tim Hubert on the Baseball Forward podcast today. Tim, you don't ever know that. You never knew that feeling of having to wipe your behind with your left hand because your right arm is like, oh, I can't do this anymore. Hey, I want to change topics, and I want to because you're really good at developing. That's what you're known for, developing guys and maybe not taking the absolute best, but turning them into the best. So I think there's something to that, because I think anybody can coach the 5-star guy. That's easy. I want the guys that can turn the average players and tick up. So I want to go down the lines of the JV programs and the importance of development within a program, because I think you hear a lot of that going on right now in the current landscape of college baseball. Is I hear it's almost like people almost speak to the detriment of, hey, they have a JV program. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, that's good for the program. I think it's good. So I want to talk about the JV program and give me your thoughts on like the importance of having a JV program at the collegiate level. How many guys you carry? What's the point? What's the perspective from where you stand?
Yeah, well, first of all, if any 5-stars want to come here, I will take them. I'm happy to do that. They're just not coming here. So yeah, we have to do what you're saying. We have to develop players. It's so rare that a finished product shows up here and is good enough to play at the level that we're playing at. It just doesn't really happen. And so, I mean, specific to JV, our development process, so to speak, a lot of it is the timing of our off season and what that looks like. That's the how and the why, in my opinion. But the JV specifically, it has to take that kid that's developed his ability set, his body. He's improved from the fall to the spring. And now what has to happen is you can never figure it out unless you give him opportunities. That's what it comes down to, So maybe we did an awesome job this offseason and we don't even know that yet of developing a certain player. He has to get on the field and show us that he's ready to do it, at a high level. And is JV a high level, so to speak, of baseball and competition? No, but you're competing against somebody. And I tell our guys all the time, like, if you're having a good JV game or something like that, like, what does that look like? Well, that means everybody on the field knows you're the best player there, or one of the best players. You just dominate that level. And then as a coaching staff, you got to sit there and think, why the heck are we not playing this guy? He's probably going to help our team get better. And so the way I talk about JV, we talk about it with every single recruit that we have come through our program. And it's one of the differences with us compared to a lot of schools. There's a few that have it at our level, but not very many. And I think they're crazy in the landscape that you're talking about right now in Division II baseball. You probably know this, Ross, but they changed the rule where now a first-year guy, a freshman, a true freshman, can play up to 30% of the games and still redshirt. Well, if you don't have JV, you're not going to play that guy, and you're just missing out on an opportunity to get him some reps and some work. And people should absolutely have JV, in my opinion, now. But we've always done it without that rule. And people are like, well, do you use a year of eligibility for JV? I'm like, absolutely. But I want you to play. I want you to get into college baseball. And the last thing, in my opinion, that someone wants to do after they work their tail off all off season, they don't know anything about college baseball yet, is sit and watch. They redshirt. And there's still a lot of programs that do that. I'm like, that sucks. That's no fun. You want to play. You want to at least have the carrot in front of your nose to think that if I play really well, I can get on the varsity team and I can help the team.
Amen.
And then historically, we've had more guys redshirt year 2 than year 1, because then we really figure out they're not ready yet, and let's maybe not burn another year of eligibility on that particular year. But to go back to your point, the one thing I always say is when we're talking to recruits, hey, we spend more time on that conversation with our top recruits than we do with our just lower level guys, because for the top guys, I always say, like, you have a very good chance to play your first year with us. And nowadays, as they say, kids want to have that known. Coach, I want to have a chance to play my first year. So, well, yeah, so does everybody. And we're pretty good. So, you better be a good player if that's going to be the case to help us. And again, good programs don't rely on freshmen. They just don't. Now, if they play, that's awesome. Going back to our national championship year, we started 3 freshman position players that year. 3 guys hit 4th, 5th, and 9th in our lineup. And I tell this story all the time. Do I care if they're a senior or freshman? Absolutely not. If they're good enough to play for us, we're going to get them in the lineup and get them out there, and some guys can do it. Some guys can't. Some guys are ready for it. But we tell our top recruits, all you need is that opportunity. If Coach Huber says, I don't think you're ready to play yet, you need the opportunity to show me that you can. And we'll see that. I'm at every JV game. All our coaching staff is there. It's important for us. And so the biggest thing I can tell you is that, and this is true every single year, there's someone that surprises you. There's someone that goes from JV that you had no intention of playing their freshman year to all of a sudden they're one of your guys on varsity. And this year we had 3 of them this past year. It was incredible. And, it just, some guys take more time. Some guys need to get into more comfortable with college baseball, right? And playing JV, at least you're playing, your first game ever isn't varsity. And if I screw up, my team loses, you lose a JV game because you screwed up, like, okay, whatever.
Sure.
So there's just a lot of factors, a lot of positives. But again, ultimately, it just comes down to given opportunities. We have about 45 guys historically on our roster every given year. Some of that is, I always say, you have to have a few more pitchers to do JV stuff just to get the number of games in. You need to get in because on any given week up here in the north with our conference schedule, you have 3-game weekends, you have 2-game midweeks, and then we're going to play 2 to 4 JV games. You better have some arms or you're not getting through that. And so the other part is let's say we have a good pitching staff, which we have here the last several years. You go into 3-game weekend and your starters go complete game, and maybe 8 of the 9 innings or 7 of the 9 innings, and you only used a couple guys. Maybe you have some awesome freshmen that didn't even get to pitch that week.
That's right.
You need another way to get them some innings, and that's usually on a Monday for us in a JV game. So there's a lot of positives for sure.
To me, it just seems like a no-brainer to me. And this is kind of the way I see it. But like you said, everybody develops differently. And if I know that I'm not a finished product, which, man, you said something, you said that no college program relies on freshmen to win. Hear that clearly if you're listening to this podcast and you think that like you're the one, and maybe you are, but in all likelihood, you're probably not the one as a freshman, and that's usual and that's normal. I mean, you got a guy that's telling you, a national champion. Most programs don't rely on freshmen. Hey, if it works out, great, but I'm not counting on that dude to put us over the top. That's the perspective that I think most recruits miss and most families miss when they're out, on the trail, is like, even if you do play year one, how much of an impact really are you making on that team? And if it is, it's more rare than it is normal to make an impact as a freshman. Do you and I almost feel like the JV program gives me time, and it's part of the learning process, but like it gives you grace when you fail. Like most guys don't know how to handle failure at any level, because if they're getting recruited, when they go to college, they probably never really experienced much failure. But that gives you kind of the grace to fail. So to me, I'm like, let me wrap the JV thing up and say, Coach Huber, if you were giving advice and there was a guy out there looking at a program, what would your advice be if they were struggling with the JV concept?
Well, that's a great point. And we have that in our program too sometimes, where guys they think they're too cool to play JV. And again, it's a mindset. It has a lot to do with the individual and the person. And, number one, I've always told guys, I don't want you to ever play JV if you're a really good player for us. Yeah. But if you are a really good player, a big recruit for us, and we don't have JV, you're going to be really pissed because you're sitting on the bench and you don't get to prove to me that you can get the job done. So when that time does come, if I'm playing you on JV, don't be pissed off at me. You show it. You be pissed off that you're not playing varsity and this is your avenue to get back there. So that's the biggest message, is to take the right mindset going into it, that I'm not playing JV. That's not going to happen. Well, then doing everything in your power to put yourself into the position to be that guy from day one. It's unusual and it's unlikely, but it's happened. We've seen it happen. It's a thing. But, again, I think the other piece to this, going back to what you just got done talking about, is there is a program probably just about anywhere in the country. If the most important thing for you is to play day one as a freshman, You can probably find it depending on your talent level where you need to go to, but how good is that school going to be? Probably not very good if they're guaranteeing you or telling you you're for sure going to play, right? Either A, the program sucks, or B, the coaches just flat out lying to you to try to get you there.
That's right.
It's one of those two things. That's just
so
the reality.
true.
I don't know how else to put it, but that's the case.
That's why I love you right there, because that's the reality of it. And you know what? It's okay. It's people need to hear that. Talking with Tim Huber, Augustana University, on the Baseball Forward podcast today. The current landscape of college baseball, yeah, it's ever changing. I'm assuming that something you said earlier, that the product, the players are probably better than they've ever been at this stage of the game, because of all the training and everything. How is from where you're at, I hear this from college coaches, the IQ is deteriorating because there's so much of an emphasis on training. Do you see much of that? And then the advice for baseball players, like, it's not just the training, but like, where do you see the landscape right now of college baseball? Is it really good? Is the IQ low? Is the product high? Where do you see things?
Yeah, I mean, for sure it's lower, generally speaking. I think that there's a couple attributes. The training piece is definitely part of it. They spend too much time worrying about that versus playing the game. But at the end of the day, I can't blame people for that, because again, we talk about this a lot. Some coaches, on the flip side, what people would say sometimes is, well, you need to play more baseball, and then in theory, you're going to get more game situational stuff, and you're going to have more learning that goes with it. You get better by playing. And I actually don't agree with that until your body is more fully developed. I always say, if you're a big league guy, your body's probably, it is what it is for the most part. You got to that level, you're big enough, strong enough, physical enough, whatever you need in your particular situation. Not everybody is, Mark McGuire, but at the end of the day, like, from a physicality standpoint, you've done enough to get there. Yep. Now just play more baseball once your body is at its physical peak. But we don't have that as 18, 19, 20-year-olds. We don't see that. We have to speed up the process to help them become more physical, to get to their ceiling, whatever their ceiling is from a physicality standpoint. So, but with what you're talking about right now, yes, I do think it does take away from, because you're training to try to get bigger, stronger, throw harder, whatever it might be. You're not playing as much baseball because it's hard to do both. It really is.
No kidding.
Your body gets beat up, and if you really get after it in the weight room, you're not going to perform as well on the field. So guys don't get after it the same in the weight room because they want to go perform. I think the other part of this dynamic, at least in our area, more in the Midwest, I think down your way in Texas and warmer weather climates, it's predominantly been travel ball and club organizations that kids play in the summertime. And up here, it's become more of a newer thing in the last, 5 to 10 years, depending on the area. And so, again, with that, are those club teams, those travel teams trying to win games and win tournaments? Sure, they are. But more importantly, the kids are there to try to showcase their skills and their talents in front of college coaches and what have you. Like, that's their number one factor. Everybody wants to win when you get on the field, but that's not their most important thing. And so you just lose track of playing the game. How often do you see a guy go bunt, And
man, no kidding.
And so now and it's trickled up into all levels of baseball. So pro baseball, people hate it because Major League Baseball, nobody bunts anymore. Well, Tom Kelly used to talk about this a lot as a Twins manager, as a Twins fan. He always said, well, percentages probably tell me I should bunt here, but what if the guy standing in the batter's box can't bunt? Why am I trying to bunt? That doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
Percentage wise, I should probably bunt. That's a good thing. That's a baseball theory thing. But if I know as a manager, as a coach, he's not going to get the job done, what the hell am I bunting for?
Gary Gaetti wasn't bunting.
What's
Kirby Puckett? Yep.
There was some bad Twins players back in the day, bad bunters back in the day. The guys that you thought should be able to bunt, they couldn't bunt.
And who comes to mind when you say that?
I'm not going to say that. I'm not doing that. But I've heard him talk about it, in big like playoff World Series situations where it's like, gosh, you should probably bunt here. And I remember him telling some stories like, that guy can't bunt. Why would I bunt him? Doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
But it goes back to, in my opinion, travel ball and some high school programs, if they're so focused on teaching launch angle and everybody has to hit the baseball in the air and, some of the theories behind it, sure, that makes sense. But then they don't spend any time on bunting. And they come into college And I watch, when we start doing basic bunt stuff some days, I'm like, wow, how are you this bad? I don't even know how it's possible that you're this bad. Well, they've never done it before. They've never worked on it. And in travel ball and all those kind of things, why would you bunt? You're trying to get a line drive to the backside gap or whatever and impress a college scout. And so, I mean, again, I could keep going. I think that's a big piece to it, and I've got a 5-year-old now. How much does your kid sit and watch baseball or not? Will he watch with you or?
But I force him to.
Well, same.
You're
same.
right.
Like, hey, Wrigley, come sit on my lap. We're gonna watch. And he's ADHD's all over. Like one inning, buddy. You're gonna watch one inning with Dad, and we're gonna talk about baseball.
Yep.
The kids don't do that.
Ooh, that gives me goosebumps because you know what? It happened last night in a really cool moment. Okay, with my family, and we're sitting there watching. And I have 3 kiddos. I have 1 of my own, and then 2 stepkids. But they're amazing kids, and we're sitting there, and we're watching the game last night. And I said, you guys come down and watch this game, okay? And watch Snell and blah blah blah. But they were into it, and then we're talking about what would you throw here? What would you throw here? Who cares what I think?
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think? And making them think. And they're talking about, hey, doubling guys up. And hey, if you throw it on 2-2, you probably need to throw it on 3-2. And we're talking through those things. And you can't learn that. You can't learn that unless you talk about it. And so to the baseball IQ piece, when you see guys that if they come into your program and they're lower IQ, I get it. No one's going to be a finished product. But do you have like a specific go-to or method that you try to really that you use if someone out there is listening and they're like, hey, my kid's an idiot with baseball and he just doesn't know, like, what's your advice? Just watch the game?
Yeah, but practice. I think we're intentional enough with it that we try to do a lot of situational stuff. The fall is a good time to do it, where you just you put a guy in base. It's always easier when you do coach pitch or machine pitch or something that's a little quicker pace, and you can get more strikes and just have a ton of action that happens in a short period of time. So we try to do a lot of that at that time of the year, because literally you have to learn something, and I'll just give you the most basic situation right now that I've been harping on our guys with, and we've seen it over and over and over all fall. And still I just shake my head because we've talked about this so much. Runner on first base, ball gets hit to the outfield, and it's everyone's habit as a base runner, at least in that particular spot, to want to just move off the base towards second and find out where the ball is. They want to read, they want to read right now. And I'm like, if the ball's in the air and it's not a line drive, right? So it's through the infield for sure. It's going up this way. As soon as it hits the bat, you sprint, take off, start moving towards second. Yes. And this is just such a basic thing. But guys have a hard time with it. That's not the instinct, is to just take off sprinting, because they're always worried as a fly ball, is someone going to catch it? And I'm like, do you know how much time you have when a fly ball is going up in the air?
Yes.
To stop, recognize that someone's going to catch it, and then go back. But if the fly ball gets hit right in the instant it gets hit, you don't know if it's going to go over the outfielder's head. So if you don't take off right away, you're losing 1, 2, 3, or 4 steps, whatever. Distance that you could cover. Now you're not scoring on a double, or you're getting thrown out on a double because you didn't just take off when the ball got hit. So though that's just one example of many things that come up when you do more and more of those situational things. And then again, using some camera systems, we could put that into a playlist that shows here's 20 situations, guy in first, ball gets hit to the outfield, and what did you do at first base? What did that look like? This is a guy that did it great, and a ball went over the outfielder's head. He scored really, really easy. This is a guy, fastest guy in our team. The ball's going over the center fielder's head. The outfielder's back's to him, and he's kind of just shuffling off in the middle of the baseline. And it was a bang play at home. You're the fastest guy in our team. The only way that happens if you don't know what you're doing. So that's the point.
How important? Because I love hearing that you guys have video evidence to teach. So I want to know from your perspective, how important is it to see yourself, to watch yourself hitting, to see yourself on camera, to use mirrors, imagery of yourself? How important is it to kind of see the actions in the educational development piece?
I think it's important, but at the end of the day, you still have to do it, and So it's one of those things where sometimes the only way you can ever learn it is to see it, because you might not ever get into that situation until 2 years from now.
Good point.
You're at that spot, and that just happens to happen to you. You know, like, can you rep it out, so to speak, as far as you can't rep out every game situation that ever happens. Or look at last night's Dodgers game where Meathead on third base kind of took off when the ball hit the center fielder's glove, but then he stopped and froze, and he just
starts bouncing around.
Yeah, I don't know it, and who knows what he's doing, but basic baseball stuff. It hit the guy's glove, go run home.
That's right.
Whether he caught it or not, and he's confused. So I don't know. I mean, that's a great teaching moment. You put that video up, and everybody sees it, and a better view would be, and I don't know if I saw this last night, but pan all of the bases to look at all the base runners to see what they're all doing versus just the meathead on third base that didn't do it right. Like how many other guys didn't do what they're supposed to do right on their bases.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, if they all retouched the base as the ball hit the glove, you can move to the next base. And
because it was a double play, home third, so the guy on second screwed that up too.
Yeah, it wasn't just one guy. Everybody's going to focus on, third base, but a lot of people didn't know what the heck they're doing on that play. So
it reminds me, there was a dude for the San Francisco Giants, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is the worst base running I've ever seen." It was like 10 years ago. The guy goes, I don't know if you've seen the clip, but he goes through second. It's caught. He doesn't know. He goes back. He cuts through. And like, I think he got released because of that play. And you're just like, what happened there? Did you have a stroke? Hey, talking with Tim Huber of Augustana University. Tim, just a couple more minutes here, man. I want you give me advice on my sons. I'm going to be selfish, and they're 10 and 11, and I'm going to put their careers, whether they're good hitters or not, I'm going to put it all on your shoulders. Okay. So if I said, "Hey, Tim," and I'm sure you get asked this all the time, I can't even imagine what it's like when you walk through town and your wife's friends they're like, "Hey, can you help Billy with hitting and all that?" So let's put this out there for everybody to hear. Tim, I need you to make my kids good hitters, just from where you're at in Sioux Falls, and we're down in DFW. I need you to give me advice to make my young guys the best hitters they can be when they come to your program, and they got about 5-6 years. Give me advice.
Well, I mean, number one, swing hard. I mean, that's just such a simple thing, but you just have to start with swinging the bat hard and not worry as much about some of the mechanic pieces to the puzzle, especially at young age groups. Some stuff I think that we see, I just got done talking to a kid about this yesterday. We worked him out because we can do that at the Division II level, and he's got a pretty solid swing. It's pretty sound. When I watched him in a game, it's long, and partly because he's just weak. And so it kind of goes to your point, when you start looking at young kids, they're going to do things wrong mechanically because they're just weak, not because they're moving incorrectly, their body posture, some of those things. They physically can't do what you think they need to do. And
Sure.
So we always have to remember that as parents or coaches with youth, is that they're not doing things right, not because they don't want to, they just physically can't do it. So again, anybody can swing hard. Anybody can keep their eye on the baseball to a relative level, right? Can you swing hard and not have your head fly off as you swing hard, which most kids will. So I think that's the starting point. Outside of that, man, I don't have a lot for you. I think that if you get them to use their lower half, I think that's really, really important, that you can start working on it at a fairly young age, 7, 8, 9 years old. You can get them to use their lower half and get their back heel to face the sky when they start to swing. And so that their hips, again, how can I generate some power and try to hit the ball further when I'm a little kid and I have no strength? Well, it's with your legs. It's not with your hands, and they want it to be here. Thinking about just using the lower half, I always think is an important factor with kids. And most of them do it pretty good for the most part. But yeah, at the end of the day, I saw a clip on, I think, Facebook the other day where some dad was sitting there with a helmet and face mask on, and his probably 4-year-old was hitting balls, and he just wanted to hit them right back at him.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's just such a great concept. Like, it's simple. You're not really talking about mechanics, but he has to stay inside the ball. He has to have good bat path. All the proper things need to happen for his body to organize to hit it back at dad.
Love that.
So if you're trying to swing hard and you're generally speaking trying to hit the ball in the middle of the field, I think there's a lot of positive things can come out of swing mechanics.
You know what I love about that though? Like it's the older I get, the more I realize that less is more and simple is better. And your explanation right there. I mean, just think about this. If anyone listening to this, if you were going to teach a kid, hey, you need to run faster, what would you tell the kid to do? Hey, go run faster. Run as fast as you can, as hard as you can. Kind of the same applies. It's like you got to teach yourself to swing hard and get in the mechanics, or the word you use. I like that. Organization. The organization of how your body moves. It'll all figure itself out, but it starts with swinging hard and having some intention. That's see, you're just getting wiser and wiser in your
I'll add one, if you want a mechanical piece, and I do this with my 5-year-old, and I just kind of started talking to him about it. He's always swung hard, which I love. I mean, he takes some absolute
Wrigley,
which is great. I love that. But the one thing I think you can add, and again, I don't know what age you can start doing it, but probably more 6 or 7. I've started doing it with him at 4 to 5, just because he's been around baseball a ton. But I try to get the hands just back a little bit into the stance. The further back they can get their hands, it's all goes back to the stuff I'm talking about. They want to hit the ball farther. They want to hit it hard. If they're real tight up in here, they're never going to do that. But if you get some space with the hands away from their body, so I always try to talk about get the hands back and get the hands up. Those two things, because if they go back to see if you can see this on video, if they go back, usually they'll go down. If you go back and up, they'll stay at a better position to swing from. So those are two terms I use a lot. Hey, get your hands up, get your hands back. And then again, what a lot of little kids will do is they'll lose their hands and they'll drop too early and lose the barrel. And so I do talk about, hey, you got a little, you got a blade below your hands. Don't hit the blade, don't go down.
I like that.
So those are some simple things. I just hand stuff, trying to get them to have better bat path, really.
Are you constantly peppered from your social community, like your family and friends, and hey, will you help? As a college baseball coach?
When I was younger, yeah, for sure. I don't know if they just figure I'm busier as I'm older now. I'm not sure, but I don't get as much of that. I used to do a lot more lessons, and I do enjoy doing them. Still, I just don't get asked as much. It's some of my buddies, guys that I played ball with. In Renner and other places, they're like, hey, can you take, my kid and do, yeah, absolutely. What do I got to charge you? Well, bring me a case of beer. We'll call it good.
Let's go. But, what kind of beer, Tim?
I'm a Coors Light guy.
Yeah, baby. Let's go. Me too. All right.
There you go. Good. Silver bullet.
All right. Last question I have for you. Let's finish this episode. I think we talked about a little bit of music. Let's talk a little bit about music right now. Let's talk about. Have I asked you what your walk-up song was, or what it would be if you were playing? And I know you play in Renner, so that you got to have something that. So what do you walk out to? What's the song you come out to?
You might have asked me this. So Matt Wilbur swears that back in the day in college, it was the best around. You're the best around. And I'm like,
gonna bring
yes, that was not it. So, but in Renner, over the course of several years with those guys, we had a couple of years where we'd have a guy, Kelly DeSouchery, would play walk-up songs, and I sure enough, I'm 40 years old and walking out to "You're the Best Around,"
dude.
And,
hey,
but no, it was Puff Daddy, "Come With Me" was the song back in college, and it was all instrumental. I think it was a Van Halen remix or something like that, but it just was. Kind of the musical piece that would fire you up a little bit. But
what does Wrigley get into? Your son, he's got a 5-year-old son who's cute as can be, and I'm guaranteed that dude's gonna be like a big leaguer. But what does he listen to? Is it all like the kid bop stuff? Is he starting to get a better ear?
Well, so in my truck, I'm mostly like 70s or more old school stuff. Yep. So one song he will remember to this day. If you ask him, he's got a bunch of stuff that he'll listen to, or he'll ask Alexa to play. But one of them is Don and Julio, "Down by the Schoolyard."
No way, no way.
And so it's just funny hearing a 4 or 5-year-old say, "Alexa, play Don and Julio, Down by the Schoolyard."
Man, that's good.
Yeah, but he's got, he's not a big music guy, but that's some of the stuff some of Dad's old school stuff. He'll as soon as the song starts, if it's on, hey Dad, is this? Yep, it is,
buddy. That's awesome. That's awesome. Tim Huber, you know what? It's great talking to you. Great seeing you. I always enjoy the conversation. Give us a few words. I'll take us out, and we'll finish this episode.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're doing an awesome job. I'd say this to you all the time, but I can't emphasize it enough. These are cool things you're doing. You're getting some great people, coming on here, and it's just good. It's baseball. It's life. It's what things can and should look like from a lot of the smart coaches you have that get on here. And I listened to even ironically Brian Hunt reached out to me recently and wants to reconnect on some stuff. But just some cool things that you pick up on. It's baseball, but it's life, and how you do things right. And you're doing a great job. I appreciate having me on always.
Well, Tim Huber, that means a lot. And I'll say this for anybody, you guys go follow this guy, go find him, use him as a resource. He is absolutely one of the best in the country. And crap, if it's Division I, II, III, 10, whatever, is one of the best coaches in America. So Tim Huber, episode 79 of the Baseball Forward podcast. See you guys.